live on my personal page, which is on Facebook, Marianne Hanson. I've gone live on my personal business page, sorry, my Facebook business page, Marianne Hanson Counselling Service. And I've also just done a live stream on my other YouTube channel, which is called Marianne Living Life, where I've been talking about something completely different. So in this video, what I want to talk about is identifying your must-haves and your deal breakers. So I think maybe, I'm sure it's this year, but a few months ago I made a video about this, and it's just called must-haves and deal breakers in a relationship. This is sort of similar, but this can apply not just to relationships. This can also apply when you're thinking about your must-haves and your deal breakers for a job, for friendships, for anything really. You know, having an idea of what it is that is really important, the absolute must-haves in a situation, and then the deal breakers, so your non-negotiables, just makes life easier because it means you have a good idea of what it is that you want. And then when you're in a situation where you have to make a choice, it just means you've already thought about this, you've already considered it. And I know lots of people I work with as a counsellor, this comes up a lot for them because they will be thinking about what it is that they actually want in a situation, but then they'll be influenced maybe by other people, they'll be influenced by social media, and when they actually sit down and think about it, they don't actually know what they want, they don't actually know what they're looking for. So then they'll end up with either in a relationship that they don't really want to be in, or a job that they don't really like, or they'll just end up in situations because they haven't really considered these things. So how often do you consider what the must-haves are when it comes to a job, a relationship, friendships and other things? Most people focus on preferences, and then they end up with a long list of requirements. So my guidance when I was making the other video that I've made is that you should, if possible, narrow things down to your absolute must-haves, and it should be 3 to 5 things. If you can even focus on just 3 things, so a good example might be, if you're talking about a relationship, your must-haves might be you need someone who's a good communicator. Your must-haves is someone who, brings peace into your life, not drama. So that would be for the relationship as a whole. So that's the other thing to think about. You're not just thinking what the other person has to bring or what the other person, your needs for the other person. It's about also the relationship as a whole. So if an example might be, the type of relationship I must have is the type of relationship where we work as a team. The type of relationship I must have is a type of relationship where there is peace, not drama. So I went on a date recently, and that one of the things that the guy said is, I'm looking for a person who's no stress, no drama. I was like, yeah, me. But no, seriously, it was like, I like that answer better than, I'm looking for someone who's tall, or I'm looking for someone who can, the things that people always say, someone with a good sense of humor, someone who can cook. And similarly, when it comes to like a job, do we ever sit down and actually say, I'm looking for this type of boss, I'm looking for this type of working environment, I'm looking for a job where I can feel like happy doing the job. So it's what's at heart that's important. Yeah, well, Votex, if that is your must-have, what's in someone's heart or the type of personality, then that would be a must-have on your list. So I think it is the main thing, what I'm trying to say really is that to think about these must-haves in the same way, deal breakers, because this is really important. From my experience of this is to do with friends, this is to do with the work that I do. People will have boundaries or deal breakers, but then there will those boundaries will disappear. Now, a good example is this comes up a lot, so that's why I've used these examples. So someone's deal breaker might be someone who has children, or someone who smokes or uses drugs, or someone who has particular just habits and that sort of thing. So people will put that as their deal breaker, or they'll have that in their head. Then they'll meet someone, and because there's chemistry between them, or because they'll go on a first date and they'll pay for the meal, or because everyone around them is saying, oh, well, you're being too fussy, or that sort of thing, they will drop that deal breaker. They will sort of say, okay, that doesn't matter. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you can sometimes make the wrong choice. The problem comes up when you're then in that relationship with the person, and the things that you knew that were there at the beginning, you're then complaining about. And I've worked with lots of people and met and know lots of people who their deal breaker was smoking. That's one of the biggest things. Like, people are either going to be on one side or the other. You're either going to be okay with someone who smokes, or you're not going to. It's a black and white thing. There's never going to be like you don't mind it, because smoking, whether it's smoking weed or whether it's just smoking cigarettes, is usually a thing where you're either a smoker or a non-smoker, and you're not usually probably going to date someone who smokes if you don't, or if it's something that bothers you. So if that's a deal breaker, you don't have to like shame yourself into saying, oh, I shouldn't really think like this, or you shouldn't. It's important as well. Deal breakers are important, not just for you, but for the other person. Because if you're going to just say yes to someone based on something you really don't like, them drinking, smoking, doing whatever, and then you're going to spend the rest of the time in the relationship criticizing them for doing that, what's the point? Because you already knew that and you still decided to date them. So that's why a deal breaker should be you deep down being brave enough to say, as much as I enjoy being around this person, as much as, you know, there's a connection there, as much as all the other things on the list are there, this is something I can't live with, I can't accept. A deal breaker is something you can't accept. So that's why, like, it's important for you to stick to it. So the other thing to think about is you can review these deal breakers and must-haves. When people have been single for quite a while, they don't always review and reflect on what you might need now. What you probably needed when you were in your 20s, or what would have been a deal breaker then, is probably not a deal breaker anymore. This whole thing of, like, I saw a story about Tinder. I've never been on there myself, but I've heard that they're putting like a height filter on there. It was on MSN News. So they're saying that because so many women are saying they want a tall man, and it's always this I don't know where this 6'2", 6'3" thing is coming from, but I think society is just obsessed with 6'2" men, 6'3", which is not even the majority of men. That's not even the majority of men, that height. But anyway, Tinder has put this height filter where you can say that's what you want. Now, to me, you can put that as a deal breaker if you rationally really believe truly that, you know, you're only gonna that someone who is under that height, that's it. They've got absolutely no chance. But the other thing to think about when you have these deal breakers or expectations for dating is consider where they're coming from. Are they coming from what society is saying should be, you know, someone earning this amount of money? You know, you have all these people on TikTok and on Instagram and even on here talking about high value men, talking about what you should look for in a woman, talking about like fitness, talking about this and talking about that. Hi, whoever's joined, thanks for joining. Sometimes we have to sit back, take a step back and think, is this what we're just hearing and we've heard so much about it that we just think that's what is the norm? You know, are we watching so many programs like Love Island or these other programs where you think, okay, well, this is what a relationship looks like, this is what a deal breaker is? Are we hearing these words red flag too much? Oh, it's a red flag if a person doesn't pay on a meal. It's a red flag if a person wears not matching shoes, you know, with their suit. This is what we've become. It's become so confusing for people that lots of young people now, but also people who are getting back out there and dating, they're so like confused about actually what they want. So instead of listening to all these programs, instead of listening to, you know, all these like social media people, sit down and think about what it is that you actually want. What is the most important things that you need in your relationship? What are the must-haves you need in a person? What are the deal breakers that no matter what else they had, no matter who the person was, no matter if you're, you know, getting to a stage where you're saying, right, I've been single for ages and all the rest of it, you're still not going to date this person because the deal breakers are so like non-negotiable. So yeah. So yeah, I think there's a video that I've already made about this, which you can watch on this channel. Is there anything else I need to add? No, I just think it's just about keeping it like simple, not having this long list, keeping it to literally 3 to 5 things maximum, and thinking of those things from a perspective of, this is how I always see it. I always view it as being, it's not about the first date and the few dates that you go on with the person. It's about you. But if you're going to be in a relationship with that person, are you going to be able to be around them for long enough without them irritating you? Are you going to be able to not just do activities and fun stuff? This is similar to like when people move abroad. When you go somewhere on holiday for 2 weeks, it's not the same as living somewhere for 2 years or whatever. So you have to think about the same way when you're dating. Going on a few dates and casually seeing someone a few times is not the same as actually being in a relationship with them. So if things are already bothering you and things are already deal breakers that they're doing when they're first dating you, then that's going to just like exaggerate itself when you're actually with them for a longer period of time. Like for me, communication is a big thing. So I am Danelle. If you're not a good communicator, I'm not saying you have to share all your feelings. Obviously, I'm a counsellor, so I'm not going to say to people, you have to really be in tune with your feelings. You have to really be expressive. You have to be, empathic. That's not what I'm saying. But if you can't communicate what's going on, how you're feeling a little bit, what's going on between us, you can't communicate, by just checking in and that sort of thing. That's going to be a deal breaker for me. Unfortunately, it just is. Now, if someone is already doing that in the early days, I'm going to assume that that's how they operate as a person. So there's no point in me thinking that this person's communication, in fact, communication isn't maybe the best one to use, because you can improve your communication. But the point is, certain personalities or certain people and behaviors that they do, it's not about judging them. It's about saying, maybe they will find that person that is more accepting of that thing. Or maybe to one person, someone being like joking around all the time. I know people who will say, this person is never serious. And then I know other people that will say, I love the fact that this person jokes around all the time. There's a person out there for everyone. So your key thing is to say to yourself, what is it that I need? And what is this a must-have for me to be in this relationship and to maintain it? And what is a deal breaker? Forget what everyone else is saying. Forget where you are in your life. It's not about, I'm just about to turn 30, so I'm just going to accept anyone that walks into my life. It's about saying, these are my expectations. It's not what other people are saying your preferences are or anything else. It's you sticking to it. So I think that happens not just in the other video I made. I was talking more about using this for jobs as well, using this for friendships. Similarly, if you are looking for a job, some of the things you might have on your must-haves could be the type of manager that you want, the type of working environment you want, the salary that you're willing to accept. Your deal breaker might be, I'm absolutely not going to... When I've gone to interviews in the past, not anymore because I'm self-employed, even when I do contracts actually for self-employment work, I know my absolute deal breakers when it comes to, like, if someone's trying to say, there are counselling jobs out there at the minute, ridiculously, where they're saying £17 an hour, which is just not even like, it's just laughable, really. It's absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't matter what that company is offering. If they think that the value of a counsellor is £17 an hour, then to me that's a deal breaker. Other jobs, when I was a social worker, I was on a certain amount of money and they were trying to either offer me the same salary but with more responsibilities, or they were trying to offer me lower amounts of money that I'm on already. And I'm thinking, why would I take a job for a lower salary when it's the same role? Didn't make any sense. So that's where this whole deal breaker thing fits in. You're not sitting there and being convinced and persuaded by other people. You're sticking to your guns. You're saying, this is my absolute must. This is my absolute deal breaker. And life just becomes easier because you're living by your standards. You're saying, this is what I'm going to expect. This is what... And you also need to consider as well, because there's lots of people out there that will keep like trying to gaslight you and say, oh, if you have these standards, you're never going to receive anything in life, or your standards are too high. That's not what it's about. If you believe in like abundance and you believe that you will get like what's coming to you in terms of like, you know, the universe will provide for everything, then you're not going to think like that. You're never going to say, I'm going to settle for something which you don't really want. You're never going to take something which in desperation. So I'll leave you just to consider, really, maybe have a think about what it is if you're in a situation where you are looking, you know, for a partner, or you are looking for a job, or you're in a situation where you need to sit down and think about your must-haves in life and your deal breakers. Sit down and review it, you know, get a little notepad out. I've done that. I've got a notepad literally and wrote down certain things. I've done this actually for when I've moved. Every time I've moved to a different location, I've had my must-haves and my deal breakers. So unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work out, because usually I'll say things like I need like allocated parking. That hasn't happened where I am at the minute. You have to pay like for a parking permit. Sometimes I'll say I need like a garden. That hasn't happened either, but there's too many other things that are on my must-haves that do fit with where I am, location-wise, convenience. Do you know the amount of places you live in the world, like in the UK especially, where you literally have to get in your car and you have to drive miles before you see a shop? I don't have to deal with that here. There's quite conveniences. So you can do it for anything. You can do it for where you want to live. You can do it for friendships, relationships, jobs. As long as you sit down and you have a clear idea, it means you don't then have to think about it when that thing's in front of you. You don't have to reject, or you don't have to consider if it's what you want. So thanks for watching. I can see a few people on here that has joined. Really appreciate it. And if you want to check out my other videos on this channel, because I do go live every Monday, but there's also over 1,000 videos on this channel about different counselling topics. Check them out. Consider subscribing. And also, if there's a video that you want me to make, put it in the comments or send me a little message and I will create that video for you. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and your week. Bye.